Hello everyone, and welcome back again for another special release date of World of Warships. Today is going to be a little bit of a kind of a how-to, kind of a showing off a little bit with some manual attacks with my Japanese Hosho air wing between the fighters and the two squadrons of torpedo attackers that I have. There's a look at the teams. I believe that the Langley on the other team wasn't exactly experienced with aircraft carriers, which of course is something you can run into at the very first aircraft carrier that somebody might have. So first things, I get my carrier moving in a little triangular pattern to just have it moving so it's got enough speed to make a maneuver should either a destroyer get close enough to shoot torpedoes at me or the enemy aircraft carrier's planes find me. I've got a little bit of maneuvering energy to swerve around or something. And I'm going to send my fighters directly into the middle to have the best possible chance of reacting to the enemy aircraft from the Langley. And I'm sending both squadrons of torpedo planes down over the mountains there in the southwest because basically they're not going to get spotted by enemy ships down there. Once the enemy fighters arrive, my fighters, instead of sweeping down in that little inlet there for... Alright, here comes the first really good manual attack, which was better than I anticipated. I believe he had sent his... I don't think he was paying attention to his fighters. This wasn't like I countered his counter moves or anything. It just timed it right, and... Honestly, I don't know how I got all 6 of his fighters. I really shouldn't have. They were far enough south that they actually shouldn't have taken the kills there, but not that I'm going to complain about it. So here comes manual attack number 2 with my fighters.
Waypoint reached.
This one was glorious. Somehow that one... All 6 planes were directly in front of the line of fire of my fighters, but I didn't get all 6. I debated actually leaving that torpedo plane alone, so that he either had to send it back to his carrier, or have it go in alone and maybe one of my other ships could shoot it down. Then I decided if I shoot it down, he's got to completely regen the squadron from his spares, so why not kill it anyway? And then here comes his 2 spare aircraft from his Langley, which I know from my own experience in the Langley, you only get 8 fighters. So once you lose the first 6, you've only got 2 left. So I was sending my guys back to go defend against the torpedo attack, and decided instead I might as well make a second attack on his fighters, get a good strafe, and that's it for the enemy fighters off the Langley. He is now fighterless. My fighters are out of ammo, having shot down 14 airplanes in one sortie. Not too bad. So I'm going to park them over the top of the destroyer there, then send them in to mark off the other destroyer and then return them home while my torpedo planes have basically arrived at their target area, so now I'm going to focus on them. I didn't know where the Langley was going to be until I see his torpedo planes taking off, and that pretty much is a dead giveaway. So I can take my planes off the search pattern and send them in. Now this actually was a little bit difficult, because you can only get your cursor so close to the edge of the map before you can launch a manual attack. But it does pretty well, all things considered. Considering how far away I had to let the torpedoes loose. They did a pretty good job for just barely missing the aft torpedo hit there at his engine with the first attack. Very nearly got 3 out of 4. And then with the second group, it actually ends up being 3 out of 4. The last one just hits him in the nose and sinks him.
We've sunk an enemy aircraft carrier.
So 5 out of 8 hits with torpedoes, not too bad. Easily could have been 8 out of 8 if I'd launched from farther away, because I kind of forgot how slow the Langley really does move. But while I could have had more hits, I had enough. That's the real important thing. Enough torpedoes got home and hit the target that it was enough to sink him. So now I've got free reign with my torpedo planes, and my fighters are free to scout all their remaining destroyers left, of which there are 5. Still 5 destroyers out there on the enemy team that I'm worried about. Now I can see most of their destroyers. Not all of them, but I can see them on the map. So I've got a pretty good idea of where I want my fighters to go when they get airborne again. So there's 4 out of the 5 destroyers spotted at the moment. One of them just disappeared in some smoke again, but I know where at least 3 of them are. And then, oh, never mind, he didn't disappear in the smoke, he got destroyed by the wicks, that's what happened. So there's 3 out of the 4 destroyers marked for the team, at least their last known location within a recent amount of time, and I'm going to send my fighters over here to the west to do a search grid to make sure that the 4th missing destroyer isn't making an end run up around me and somehow got past the wicks and the Isokaze there. I don't think he did, but better safe than suddenly discovered. Especially with the Hosho's got pretty good maneuverability, but it's still not going to beat a destroyer. It's better than the Langley, certainly. When you're in the Langley, if a destroyer gets in on you, you might as well issue out the life jackets and launch all the airplanes you can with all the last letters and mail home, because you're about to go swimming. So I'm continuing to mark out the spotted destroyers for the team, so they're not sneaking in and getting too close to our friendlies, especially the battleships that we have left. And now I kind of rally up my 2 torpedo squadrons, and I'm going to send them in as close together as I can get them against this Wyoming, trying to double stack the torpedoes, as it were. Still a pretty even game ships-wise. We've got a pretty good lead on them score-wise, but as far as ship numbers go, we've only got a single-digit lead right now, or a single ship lead, rather. Not single-digit, of course it's single digits. So lining up the double torpedo stack attack on this Wyoming here. I decided it was probably pretty good and I should stay zoomed in and watch it. And not too bad. 5 out of 8 again, just like on the Langley. Not too bad at all. Too bad the torpedoes on the Hosho don't do all that much damage, or that would have been probably a one-shot devastating strike. But still, that Wyoming is pretty much out of the fight for the moment.
Destination reached.
There's 3 out of the 4 destroyers again targeted. Still don't know where the 4th missing one is.
Autopilot mode enabled.
And those destroyers are getting a little bit close over there in the west, with only a Wyoming to stop them from getting up to me. So I'm going to get my carrier moving and sailing east to relative safety, at least where the rest of my fleet is. Keep them spotted with my fighters, and then additionally spot them with their square. And there's the missing Clemson there, just sank our... well, the Clemson didn't sink our wicks. The Bogatyr did, but the Clemson was right next to him. So I at least know where all 4 destroyers are. There he is. So I'm going to keep my fighters flying around in a spotting pattern. Excuse me, a spotting pattern as much as I can. And get my Hosho continuing to move at maximum speed forward around the islands and away from the west where all those destroyers are coming. Now the enemy team has an advantage in ship numbers. And I love that I got a warning about the destroyers. That kind of makes me laugh. Like, I've been spotting them for almost the entire... not the entire battle, because initially I was attacking other ships, but I've been spotting them for at least the last 5 minutes of the battle, trying to warn the team about them. So here's a relatively decent manual torpedo shot right there that actually hits the wicks. And then not as great with the second group because they were in a little bit too close and I didn't have time to readjust them because I was watching the wicks take the hit. So, not a perfect display of manual attacks here for every manual attack I did, but at least enough to give the Isokaze reason to maneuver, so not all bad. And at least the forward judgment of getting the carrier the heck east as quickly as possible way early on helped me out a bit there because those destroyers got pretty close. And certainly would have been close enough to detect me and make a run at me if I hadn't shifted as far east as I already had. So while my torpedo planes are reloading and getting ready to launch again, I'm kind of figuring out what I want to go attack next. And keep my fighters in their search pattern, keep them moving so we keep the enemy destroyers spotted as much as possible. And then send my torpedo planes in again. This time they're going to try and go at least knock capture points out of the destroyers, if not sink the destroyers. Got to do everything I can to keep them from taking our cap. The scores got a little bit more even, and a lot more even right there with the loss of 2 of their ships in a row very quickly. But still, they're threatening us much more than we're threatening them as far as the caps are concerned. Did what I could with the third group there. Probably should have hit that Wix right there with Group 4, but the Bogatyr being a much less maneuverable target and also much more rapid firing at our St. Louis was a slightly better target to go after with my number 4 squadron. I missed with the number 3 squadron on the Clemson, but got a pair of hits on the Bogatyr, although it only took 1 to kill him. So the torpedo planes are returning back home, rearming and reloading and relaunching one more time, keeping the fighters in on that Clemson, who's now the biggest threat to both myself and the Miyogi. And that kind of made me laugh in the chat there a little bit. The Hosho doesn't get dive bombers. It only gets 1 squadron of fighters and 2 squadrons of torpedo planes. That's it. There are no air group upgrades or changes, so kind of funny. Just somebody who doesn't know what the Hosho has, that's all. Not a problem. Just sort of entertaining. So now that we've got all 3 destroyers working at our cap, I'm going to send my aircraft carrier into their cap, both to keep it moving and so that eventually maybe I'll actually get in their cap and start capturing it. And then send my planes back up north to help everybody defend our cap. Down to just 2 destroyers left on the enemy team. Pretty low health Clemson right here. Who strayed a little too far out of his smoke and let me spot him. Keep my fighters in another search grid around him just to keep him spotted. And then he makes a really fatal mistake here and starts turning in towards the torpedo planes, and that's going to do it. 1 destroyer down by my teammates, and another one down by me with another manual attack. And that's it. That's a bit of a come from behind victory. So there you have it, 13 torpedo hits, 14 planes shot down all within the initial rush there, 3 floods, and 3 ships sunk, and there are the scores. Second place, not too bad after the Miyogi. There's all the damage I did to everyone. 36 torpedoes launched, and 13 hits, not too bad. And there's the score, not too bad either. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Hopefully, if you guys are trying to work on learning manual text, that helped you out a little bit. I know I didn't really explain what I was doing, but there's plenty of videos that do that, so you can find those. Thank you guys for stopping by and checking this one out, and I look forward to bringing you some more videos. Happy holidays!